Welcome to the Mama Needs a Moment podcast. We are your hosts, Chrissy
and Cindy,
co-founders of Her Health Collective.
We are two moms obsessed with changing the way moms take care of themselves. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Her Health Collective hosts 4 roundtables each year in an effort to bring together our experts and dive deep into the topics that matter to moms the most. Each of the experts represented in our roundtables have different professional backgrounds and specialties. When they come together and discuss an issue pertinent to moms, you can expect to get different perspectives based on their area of focus. This is also a time for the experts to collaborate with professionals from other industries in order to create a more holistic model of care. Our goal is to expand not only the experts referral network, but to emphasize the importance of collaborative care. In our roundtable today, we are exploring how to deal with learning, social, and behavioral struggles of children from both a neurotypical and a neurodiverse lens. Today, we are honored to be joined by several of our Her experts. We will take a few moments to let each of our experts introduce themselves and share their area of expertise so that you, our listeners, can hear each expert's voice and have a better idea of who is speaking during the upcoming conversation. And my eyes keep going to this first person at the top of my screen, which is Dr. Emily King. Can you pop off mute and just introduce yourself to our listeners and what your focus is?
Sure, yes. Hey, everybody. So I am a child psychologist in Raleigh. I'm a former school psychologist, and that's what my degree is in. But then I've expanded my work once I started getting into helping more complex neurodivergent kids to be able to work with parents and teachers and providers in the community. I am currently just really working with parents. I do still have some part-time child clients, but I have 2 neurodivergent boys myself that I'm in the season of tweens and teens with. So my boys are 10 and 16 years old. And so for the next several years, I'm working fewer afternoons than daytime. So that's why I'm shifting to parent work for the next season of life. But I love to talk with parents and also with teachers. So I provide online workshops for parents too, and professional development to K-12 teachers.
Thank you so much, Dr. Emily. We really are happy to have you here with us today. And I'm just going to keep going across my screen. And the next face that I see is Kelly. Can you pop on, Kelly, and introduce yourself and tell us what your focus is?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Kelly Smedley. I am a psychiatric clinical nurse specialist, and I am the owner and founder of Waypoint Counseling and Maternal Wellness. We are a fairly large group practice consisting of mental health therapists and psychiatric and women's health nurse practitioners. We have offices in Raleigh and Durham and see clients virtually across the state. Our focus is perinatal mental health. I always say we see mostly women from pregnancy, postpartum, and beyond, because we know motherhood doesn't end. I have worked in the mental health field for about 25 years now, which ages me a bit. And I have 5 children. I have 4 on earth and 1 in heaven. My oldest is 19, then a 16-year-old, a 13-year-old. My 1 in heaven would be 11. And then I have my youngest is 9.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It's great to have you here. Hey, Sarah, can you pop on and let everybody know who you are?
Absolutely. I'm Sarah Parise, and I'm a wellness specialist, specifically now in this stage of my life for moms. I've been a personal trainer, yoga instructor, and wellness specialist for 19 years now. And once I entered this journey of motherhood 8 years ago, I just realized how quickly we all fall to the bottom of the priority list. So my whole goal and mission in life now is to empower moms to take care of their own self and their own wellness for just 2% of the day, taking care of your physical, mental, and emotional wellness for you. And I love that I work with moms because I really experience a trickle-down effect that the whole family gets affected. I was a teacher for 12 years in the special education space in New York City, and I taught science and worked with many neurodivergent students when that term wasn't in existence yet. And it's always been a passion of mine to get those types of kids and neurotypical kids moving at a very young age so they can continue that health journey all throughout their life, because there's so many benefits that movement and finding something that you love early in life that can do for your body and your mind all throughout. So thanks for having me today.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Great to have you here. I'm moving across to Dr. Hidalgo.
Thank you guys for having me. Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Priscilla Hidalgo, or Dr. H, as many of my patients call me. I am a psychiatrist in private practice, and I serve patients in North Carolina and in Florida. I focus more on women's mental health, physician wellness, even though I treat a wide range of psychiatric disorders. The way I created my practice is that I wanted to make sure that it was available to people. So most of my hours are actually either on Saturdays or like after 3 or 4 p.m., which makes it easier for people to be able to schedule, after work and all that, and they don't have to take time off. So it has really worked out fairly well. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. Thank you for being here. Rebecca.
Hi,
Hi.
everybody. It's great to be here. I'm Rebecca Rao. I am a speech language pathologist. I have 15 years in the field now, which is crazy to say. I own ACT Therapy Services. We have an office in North Raleigh. We provide pediatric speech language pathology services in the office and in schools and daycares and preschools and some homes nearby as well. So really fun. Great to be here. I'm so intrigued by everybody who's here, and I can't wait to hear more.
It'll be great to have your perspective. Thanks so much, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Hey, Carrie. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm Carrie Lett. I'm a registered dietitian. I specialize in maternal and pediatric health, helping women from fertility all the way through pregnancy, postpartum, and then kids 0 to 18, with lots of work with our neurotypical children, since a lot of times that has some feeding issues along with it. So definitely something I'm passionate about and happy to talk about it today. I'm also the owner of Milestones Pediatric and Maternal Nutrition, where we're a feeding team of myself and lactation consultant too.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you so much, everybody. I know that this is going to be an amazing conversation. Oftentimes, a parent just knows when something isn't working for their child. They can see the struggles their child is enduring and how much it impacts their development and overall happiness. Dr. Emily, can you please talk to us a bit about when an evaluation is necessary and how parents can know what type of evaluation is needed for their kid?
Yeah, so if you have a young child who has developmental delays, then you can, access statewide services to have someone do developmental screenings, or just talking to your pediatrician about milestones. Sometimes with milder presentations of autism, pediatricians right now in this generation, I think, of pediatricians don't see it as much as, let's say, a psychologist that's worked with autism for 20 years. You just have to see a lot of it to know some of the milder cases. So if you have a feeling in your gut that like the pediatrician said no, but I really think something's going on with speech and language is usually the first milestone. I'd love to hear Rebecca talk about this a little bit. So sometimes with autism, especially, kids will first be evaluated for speech and language delays, and they'll have OT. But then when we start to talk about figuring out if your kid is collecting diagnoses, and there's, attention, and there's anxiety, and there's sensory, and there's language, there could be, we want to have, an umbrella evaluation of, is this a bigger developmental explanation? And so you would see a psychologist for that. So if you are wondering if your child could receive school services, a school psychologist would do that. Again, evaluations in the schools are only giving your child eligibility for services. They are not considered a clinical diagnosis. If you want to have your child evaluated outside of school in private practice, or at a university clinic, which is usually like at UNC and Duke and clinics like that, it's usually for much more complex needs. Like there's probably something genetic going on or multiple developmental delays. So that's not really necessary unless you have a child with that presentation. And so sometimes families will start with a school evaluation if there's a learning disability or a teacher has brought it up. And then if it's something that's more complex, they may want to see someone in private practice. So both are great quality evaluations. You're going to get a clinical diagnosis in private practice, and you're going to get an educational classification or an educational access to services or not to inform an IEP or an individual education plan at school. So it kind of depends on what your plan is. You can have your child tested privately in private practice and then share that report with school. They may have to do a few other things that they're required to do in public school, but they can accept that report and then use that for planning. And then sometimes the school report may not be as in-depth. It won't be able to tell you like what kind of therapies your child would need outside of school. It's simply for what your child can receive services for in school. So knowing all of that, the age of your child, what you might be concerned about, lean into people who know your child well. If they have a speech language pathologist or an OT, ask that person, or has autism ever crossed your mind, or has ADHD ever crossed your mind? Do I need to see a psychologist about those things, which is who you would see to dig into those. Pediatricians and psychiatrists, though, can also diagnose ADHD. It's fairly straightforward, so don't feel like you have to have an in-depth evaluation for that. If it's ADHD plus is what I call it, like you also are concerned about learning, you're also concerned about autism, or you're also concerned about anxiety, I would go ahead and have a full evaluation by a psychologist who is familiar with all of those things. So I'd love to hear Rebecca's thoughts to add, because we're both in the evaluation world, even though I'm not even doing evaluations anymore, but I read them all the time.
Yes. Yeah. We rely heavily on those. I think from an ethical standpoint here in North Carolina, of course, a speech language and OTs, we can't diagnose any of that. And so we're just working with families consistently on getting them to where they need to be. And often we're the first responders. So we're the first on the scene to notify the parent, hey, he isn't speaking yet, or he's not yet speaking, is a term that we use. And maybe you should see a developmental pediatrician or a psychologist, and we would love to get another pair of eyes on him, because, we want to work collaboratively with the family, and a lot of times people are already in crisis mode and we don't want to perpetuate that. And so, just kind of being gentle with families and leading them and guiding them while working with them is the most important thing for us. And so it's very intriguing because it is a lot of pressure on us sometimes, being kind of the first on the scene. We're often the first to identify, but making sure that we're working collaboratively with people like Dr. King and just really setting up that communication and sensory needs and whatnot before, during, and after the psychological process, whether they do that privately or through the school system. And we guide families through one or other or both sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like an overwhelming time of realizing something's, your child's on a different path, something's not developing on the timeline that this pediatrician gave me this list, and I'm looking for all these things.
Yeah.
But what I know I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've seen so many kids over time mature into adolescence and adulthood. They all mature and they all make progress. It all is just on their own time frame, and we don't always know when it's going to click and when it's going to happen, but we just keep working towards those milestones. And I think sometimes parents can get stuck in their fear of, well, if we evaluate it and name it, that means it's real. And I get that. I've lived this. I absolutely know your feelings. However, when your team and all the teachers understand more in depth what's going on with your child, they already know something is different. But when they are informed accurately about what's going on in their development, they're better able to support your child. And then you will be able to help your child 5 years or 10 years from if it's a preschool evaluation, when that evaluation is happening, help your child understand their own neurodivergence. I talk about this a lot. I've done workshops on it because it's hard. It's hard to know what to say. We are always afraid we're going to mess it up, but you're not. But the first thing we have to do is we, the adults, have to understand it and accept it and figure out, how can I help my child understand their strengths and their needs for support? Because eventually our ultimate goal is to help them self-advocate.
Often what I see with my clients, I see the moms of a lot of kids and myself. My youngest has ADHD. what I see a barrier is oftentimes one parent doesn't feel there's anything wrong with their child and the other parent does. And then, I will see clients that are frustrated with their spouse and, I think there might be something going on, but they're adamant that nothing is going on. Why would we get them evaluated? I always say, just get the evaluation. It doesn't mean that we are committing to medication. It doesn't mean we're committing to all this therapy. Let's get the professionals to just take a look and see what we're dealing with. Knowledge is power. And so usually if you can get your spouse or partner or the other parent to agree to just an evaluation, that opens the door, because I see people wait for years to get their kids because they're afraid of the fight that they have to have with their spouse to get them tested. So I just wanted to add that.
This episode is sponsored by Her Circle, the supportive and welcoming community for moms created by Her Health Collective.
Her Circle is a welcoming and supportive community for moms who are passionate about making change for themselves, their families, the community, and the world. Together, this village of women are revolutionizing the way moms take care of themselves.
From an active, private online community and the incredible daily chats hosted there, to our many gatherings, including support groups, Moms Night Out, volunteer opportunities, book club, family adventures, coffee chats, and so much more. We love providing moms the chance to connect and create authentic relationships with one another.
The network of experts in Her Circle are a phenomenal resource and provide great learning experiences for moms on topics ranging from women's health to parenting. We cover the issues that matter to moms the most, from virtual expert Q&As to one-on-one wellness minute consultations and support groups. We are committed to getting moms in front of the information, experts, and support they need most.
To learn more about Her Circle, head to www.herhealthcollective.com. We have a limited number of spaces and the doors only open a few times a year. So be sure to add your name to the no obligation waitlist so you are the first to know when the doors officially reopen. We actually have a question from one of our members. She was asking how early you can get an evaluation for a child, specifically for ADHD.
Yeah, so ADHD now needs to be, they've changed it. It used to be under age 7 needed to be present, but in the newest DSM, it is age 12. Not that you have to have them evaluated then, but the history has to be there. They can't just all of a sudden be 14 and become distracted, and that's ADHD. So usually we see ADHD in preschool children if it's very severe. So like a 4-year-old being diagnosed with ADHD, it's got to be pretty severe because most 4-year-olds are active, right? And so often you can have them diagnosed then, but you might get an inconclusive, or you might get, let's monitor this. Once children are 5 and 6, we obviously change their environment. We ask them to sit in seats and put 4 walls around them. And so that's usually when we start to see, oh, okay, so this child's able to regulate their body, this child is not. And usually there's a history of like, this child had trouble sleeping, didn't sleep through the night for a year, or this child has big emotions, or this child can't keep up with their belongings. There are other things happening in the history that usually don't start to mature around 5 to 7. So you can have a child evaluated at 4. I would say under 4, they're all just so active, you can't tell. But if you have these kind of early milestones of difficulty soothing, difficulty with emotional regulation, very active, early crawler. I mean, my ADHD son, like ran at 11 months, like crawled out of the crib, like way before we thought, and didn't sleep through the night for a year. And like retrospect, it's like, he's so active, right? And so he needs so much input and activity and day-to-day still, and he's 10. And so thinking about how your kid moves, how they regulate their emotions, you'll have a sense, but it will become much more clear between 5 and 7. So sometimes we're looking at 2 evaluations. Sometimes we're looking at, let's get a data point at preschool and it might be recommended they do OT, but there's no diagnosis yet. And that would be fine. But then you're getting the support. And then maybe by 7, if they're still pretty active, then you have the history to look back. I love when I see like a 7 or 8-year-old and we have a data point from 3 and 4, whether it's a speech eval or an OT. It doesn't have to be like a full psychological. It's a clinician who has, kind of clinical judgment and has seen a lot of preschoolers, has written up their observations of what that child looked like at 3. That's so helpful for anyone testing them later.
Thank you, Dr. Emily. That's super helpful. Rebecca, could you very quickly just share with us a bit about neurodiverse speech and OT? What would this look like?
Yes, we've come a long way in both fields, I feel like, especially in the 15 years I've been in it. So when we talk about this now, we're really getting away from compliance with children of like, sit down, don't talk, hold still, don't flap, look at us. And we're already in our office, but I think more offices are following to a really connected type of therapy where we're connecting with families, connecting with clients, getting on their level, doing what they want to do. And so, for example, if I have a kid that comes in, I still treat 2 days a week. And if I have a child that comes in and they want to do the whole session with their feet up on the wall, laying on the floor, guess what we're going to do? We're going to do that because it is whatever is intrinsically motivating. We're not giving them M&Ms. We're not using movement as a reward. We're moving with them what their body needs. We're meeting their sensory needs while also valuing connection over compliance. So it's a lot of play-based therapy. It's a lot of on the floor, moving, rolling around. And literally, as long as it's safe for the therapist and safe for the child and safe for the other people around them, we're going to do whatever they want to do and go with their interests, because I'm just not going to make a child sit down. We've had parents request that we strap their child in a chair. We've had parents request that we force their children to look at us. And as we know from research with neurodiverse people, that is just very uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for any human. And so, being respectful of humankind as a whole and really just going with respecting all brains and how all brains work. And so, especially when we have a child come in that is speaking to us, whether verbally or through an AAC device, which is augmentative and alternative communication, maybe an iPad or a special device where they're, typing to us pictures and words are coming out, they're going to tell us what they like and they don't like. And guess what we have to do? Listen to that and respect it. And so if they're not interested in, whatever, and I think we have other people here that can speak better to this, but sometimes it becomes a conflict between the parents and the child because the parents are saying, well, we want them to be more social and make friends and we want them to be interested in XYZ. Well, if the kid comes to us and says, I don't care about that stuff, then we're not going to work on that with the child. We have to respect them as a person and what their interests are. And so it's all about interest-based therapy. It's all about connection. It's all about truly paying attention and being with that child. And in a society where we're highly distractible and we're always distracted by something, whether it's our own selves or technology, it can be very hard to do, but it's really getting down and dirty and being with that child and listening to the child and the family and bridging those needs.
My background and training is in DIR floor time. For anyone who's interested in looking into more of what that looks like, it's very much similar to what Rebecca just described, in that you follow the child's lead to open up their brain to learning, because when we do more compliance things, which sometimes classrooms are very compliant, right? And this is where a lot of school stress can come in for autistic or ADHD children and anxious children, is that they feel like they can't do the thing and all of their energy and mental energy is going towards just compliance. So they have no energy left over to learn. So in order to keep their brain open to learning, is what I call it, we have to keep them emotionally regulated, and interests and movement and connection do that. And so, yes, it looks like their child is rolling around on the floor, but as therapists, we all know, like, a kid does not have to be looking at me to be engaged. As long as their mood is good and we're, communicating either through play or through words, they're all different kinds of ways. This is sometimes where how we were raised in more compliance-based generation, we're going to have a go-to of our kids' behavior making us uncomfortable. So I always say to parents, like, you can let that slide. You can let the eye contact slide. You can let the body movement slide, and definitely let, any stimming or flapping. That is all body regulation. We don't want to correct any of that. Do we want to step in when our child is very upset, or if their mood is dysregulated a lot? That's more of a problem. And they're never, social is a good example. What Rebecca just said is, I like to call this, is my child socially satisfied, not socially successful? Because there's so many kids who are socially satisfied just hanging out with family. And it's okay that they don't have a friend, or it's okay that their friend is their sibling. And as they get older, they may I see this a lot with autistic teenagers. It's like parallel play with teens. They just want to be around other teens. They may not even be talking to anyone, but they're socially satisfied to feel included. So we just need to keep an open mind with different definitions of success for our neurodivergent kids.
It's perfect. Thank you. Let's talk a little bit more about how moms can take care of themselves as they navigate the challenges that come from raising and advocating for a neurodivergent child. Parenting in general is tough. Raising a neurodivergent kid can create a situation in which many parents find that they are consumed with guilt as they beat themselves up for things not going according to plan or things not working out, just so I can vouch for this. So I'd love to talk to Dr. H a little bit. Kelly, we're going to also get your feedback in this area as well. Can you please share with us some tools parents can use to practice being more kind to themselves throughout this process?
Sure. This is a huge thing for me. And I would say the cornerstone of my private practice, look psychiatry with women, is about how do we change that internal dialogue that we have, because usually the parenting, the house chores and everything falls on women. And I think women are in tough situations a lot of times. And a lot of times we end up blaming ourselves. We think this is our fault, this is something I'm doing or I am not doing enough of and whatnot. So it is really tough. And I would say two main things that could be helpful. One is to watch the internal dialogue that we have. Like when we start noticing these thoughts, think about if this is the way that you would talk to your best friend. And chances are that we would change the way we talk when we're addressing a situation like this, because we would never talk to our best friends the way that sometimes we talk to ourselves. And then the other thing is that kids are incredibly resilient. And you guys already alluded a little bit to that. Like I know that a lot of people feel, oh, if I don't do this, I'm going to screw up my kid. I'm going to have to start saving for therapy now, so that way when they're old enough, they can get started and all these things. But kids are incredibly resilient. As long as you're in tune with your kid, it's going to be fine. And just think about how having a community, if you're struggling, it doesn't matter if it is neurotypical, neurodivergent kid, try to have a community of other moms and other people that can understand how you feel, not only to get tips, because of course, the experience of other people can be incredibly helpful, but also to have a sense of community. Research consistently shows that people are better equipped to deal with stressors and deal with tough situations when they know that they are not alone, when they know that they have a community, and also that you have the tools to deal with this. It's actually not that bad, but also just really watch the way that you talk to yourself. That would be my number one thing.
Thank you. Kelly, do you have anything to add in there? Specifically, how moms can manage guilt of splitting their attention and energy among their different kids. So perhaps they have a neurotypical child and then a neurodivergent child. How can moms manage that?
It's tough. I think kind of to echo what Dr. H said is we put so much pressure on ourselves, and we often are so critical of ourselves, much more critical to ourselves than we would a friend or a colleague or a family member. Giving ourselves grace is something to always keep in the back of your mind and keep your expectations reasonable. I think in order to alleviate guilt, the first thing is recognizing you yourself as a priority as a mom. You have to put yourself at least level with your children and your family and not at the bottom of the ladder. So that may mean making those decisions to have the kids watch some extra screens so you can go walk on the treadmill. That may mean that you say no to something with school because you're just spent and you need a Friday night to veg out or not volunteer your time. And being okay with that. We have a saying in my family, we can't do it all. So you really can't, and that's okay. Your kids are going to be fine. I also joke with a lot of my friends and clients that, men don't typically, this is a generalization, they do not feel guilt the way us moms do. We put so much on us, and I'll like be fretting over something and my husband will be like, why is that even bothering you? And it's like, I don't know, it just is. So recognizing it's, I think, a biological thing where we're just programmed to feel guilty, but we have to split our time between so much, whether it's you have 1 kid, you have 5 kids, you have work, you don't work, all of our responsibilities, and recognizing that you are only one person, and it's finding that balance that sometimes one kid may need more from you, whether they're neurotypical or neurodivergent. You might have a kid going through something and they just need more attention, and your other kid or kids have to, get seconds from mom. And that's okay. I think the most important thing for you to be the best version of yourself is to recognize what you need. And that may mean you need time to yourself every day. That may mean you need connection with friends on a regular basis. That may mean you need to eat right and exercise, and recognizing how you operate as the best version of yourself and starting there. And you'll find that once you are taking care of yourself and not pouring from an empty cup, everything else seems to a lot easier to manage.
And Kelly, what you were talking about, I love it, because I think of it as in terms of setting boundaries. Like, if you really want to be there for people, you have to set boundaries. And
Yes.
and it is incredibly necessary. And it is okay not to function at 100%. It is okay that today is going to be, I'm going to do the bare minimum. If the bare minimum is feeding people and keeping people alive, so be it. Tomorrow will be a better day. But even setting boundaries with yourself as to your own expectations. I saw this reel on Instagram. This woman was showing, like, she wakes up in the morning, she's like working out and stuff. And she's saying, everything is possible. You can meet up with your friends. You can run your own business. You can do all this stuff. Everybody can do it when they lie. And I was like, this is actually perfect. I love it.
I love it.
The expression, if you have, like, when your tank's at 20% and you're giving that 20%, you're actually giving it your all. And I love that reminder. Like, at the end of the day, my husband and I check in when he gets home of like, where are you at? So we know who has to pull more of the weight that night. And when you're functioning, we haven't slept, we haven't eaten well all day, we haven't moved our body, and you're just like, your tank is drained, but you're still giving the 100% that you have that day to give. And I always like that reminder when I allow myself grace.
I love that so much. Thank you so much to each of our expert panelists for joining us today. Raising children and navigating learning, behavioral, social struggles, it can be such a challenging aspect of parenting. We truly appreciate each of you taking the time to come together to discuss this issue and share your own unique thoughts and perspectives. Be sure to check out herhealthcollective.com for more great content from each of these expert panelists throughout the year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
This is great.
We've enjoyed hanging out with you today, friend. We hope you got to finally enjoy a hot cup of coffee as you listened. Make sure you follow us so you're the first to know when we drop a new episode.
If you've enjoyed your time with us, let us know by leaving a review. We always love hearing from you. Until next time, stay true to you.